So there's the storage of waste creates all these imbalances in the body, which create the hormones to fire off and secrete very in an imbalanced way. And that causes all this adipose tissue to be stored. And then we have the estrogens in the environmental estrogens, which cause the body to store a lot of adipose tissue being fat tissue, because the body's very careful and concerned with its essential organs, with its vital organs. It wants to make sure that radiation and heavy metals and chemicals don't get too close to the vital organs. So it creates adipose tissue, fat tissue, to store these toxins in to protect the vital organs. So the imbalances, the unfit substances, these radically unfit substances are stashed and stored in places that it's the body's way of coping and trying to make a plan, an intelligent plan to protect the viability of the organism. But that plan doesn't always look pretty on the body, and it's the body's way of saying, this is a mirror of what you're doing to me. This isn't good for me. I'm trying to show you. Are you seeing? And here's a solution. And people have been doing colonics from the beginning of time. I mean, this is a very, very, in fact, when you get your Enlightener, you get this little booklet from me, and it's a guide to your Enlightener, and I explain the whole history of colon cleansing and why it's something that no one should be afraid of or intimidated by or made nervous by, because first of all, it's as simple as water. It's just plain simple water. The body loves water. The body responds to water. It responds beautifully to water. And secondly, it's something that has been used as the original go-to, as the first thing to turn to historically to improve the body. And in Greek literature, biblically, in the Essene Gospel of Peace throughout. That was in the days of the Essenes. The Dead Sea Scrolls were created around that time, I believe. And then up until more recently, when even Beverly Boulevard or Beverly Drive in Beverly Hills back in the 50s was called Colonic Row. So my grandmother was doing enemas at home, when back in the day, and she was, before World War II. It was a very standard thing. You go into hospital, and if you weren't dealing with an external injury, something internal, usually they would perform an enema first, because they knew that would fix most problems. If it was a headache, or it was joint issues, or if it was something chronic, the enema, just having a good enema would solve the problem. We all know how great we feel when we have a good elimination. I mean, it's one of those things. It's right up there with, it's right up there. Who's going to say put that stuff back in me? After my first colonic, I remember thinking, because I was told, I fortunately only heard this after, but I'd left a message for a very highly regarded MD who happened to have an alternative bent. So I was seeing him, and I asked him his opinion, and he didn't get back to me until after my colonic, fortunately. Thank goodness. I mean, that's how the universe works, because I'd had this most extraordinary experience. For an hour, my body expunging things that, I'd say to people, you could not pay me enough money to put that back inside me. There is no amount, you never. And yet, everyone's walking around with stuff inside them. It's taking up their beautiful real estate, and they're going out there pursuing material gain. The material gain is the removal of the waste. It's that simple. And then I used to joke with, so Gil Jacobs, my mentor, he's the colon hydrotherapy, he's the guru. He is, he's the one who started all of this, for better or worse, always for better. But he was my mentor, and we used to joke as we'd be on the colonic table, and he'd be administering my colon hydrotherapy session, and I was at the point then when I was already well on the road. I got this. I understood exactly how valuable all this was. And he would say, what would you rather, be given $60 million or have access to and know about colonics? And I'd say, no question, have access to, know about, and execute colonics, because then you'll get the $60 million idea anyway. You're so full of life force. You're so full of your mind is so clear. You're so naturally innovative, and you don't even need it. That's the beauty of it. You don't need all that material, all those material sorts of, what do you call them? You don't need the material excesses, because you have accessed the most materially, meaningfully, life-enhancing experience, you cannot buy this. You know, you can buy a tool to help you get it, like the Enlightener, but you can't buy the experience of having your body cleaned out. You have to do that yourself, and you can do it yourself. And again, it's worth more than its weight in gold, because you're preventing your own gold when you are filled with that obstruction. It's incredible. And just to get a sense of how big the unit is, like this is what we're talking about. You can travel with this, you take it anywhere, you take it in your overnight bag. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. It just, you know, it just literally coils up into something so small and so light. You've got this, you've got your speculum, and that's it. And that all connects like a, you know, one piece in the system. You're not having to lie down and put out a bed in your bathroom. You're not having to leave up big tanks of water. You know, it's coming from the sink. You're standing up, as you'll see, and you're using gravity in a different way, but you're still using gravity with the home irrigation unit, and you literally are enlightened, because you're enlightened of this load. You are getting the clarity of why your body and your mind and your spirit have been so bogged down. You're removing those blockages on every level. It may be coming out physically, but it's also coming out energetically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. Because the things that we consumed when we were in poor mental or emotional states, we consumed them because we were not enlightened, because we were carrying dysfunctional emotions, dysfunctional thought forms, entities that were governing us and telling us what to do, like pathogens in the body that want us to consume sugars and alcohols and things like this. So we're removing all of that, let me say, misguided thinking and dysfunctional feeling as we release this waste through the colonic tube. There's so much good in this that you can't even capture it all in one sitting. It's just, and you'll sit with it, you'll reflect on it, and you'll think, and you can do this when you're actually watching the show and having your home Enlightener experience. It'll come together for you. You'll start to see, you'll have these epiphanies, these aha moments constantly, and it's a self-education. And then no one needs to tell you or explain anything to you, because you see it in black and white terms. You know, you see why you were blocked. You see where those false ideologies were misguiding you. And then you move on with your life, unburdened by them. Because typically, if you're like in a psychological analysis or something, you might identify the problem, but it doesn't mean that you can erase it. In this case, we erase it. We take it away. This is your eraser.